Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Let's take you back to our leading story now on the capture of convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester, his alleged partner, Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, and a Mozambican national in Tanzania last night. For some reaction, we're joined by Richard Mamabolo, who speaks for the Police and Prisons Civil Rights Union. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. What's your reaction to the news?
To you and your viewers. Well, look, we're quite happy about the recent developments. And, of course, I think it also brings a lot of, reassurance to especially the victims who have obviously been worried that the person who perpetrated such criminal acts against them has been arrested. But as well, we want to express that what we think should happen is that there needs to be some form of introspection, especially from the Department of Correctional Services and, of course, the G4S. What we have always been arguing is that we should not necessarily outsource the responsibilities that the nation, the government is supposed to play in as far as the security measures are concerned. You remember that the core mandate of the Department of Correctional Services is to rehabilitate, while the mandate of the private companies would be, for profit maximization. So we think that's one of the areas that need to be looked into. But since there has been this arrest, we think that obviously there should be some level of introspection looking into the causal factors, and I think as well as our border control systems, really, because if the person was found in Tanzania, which is about 2 countries away from ours, it would have meant that they would have had access to go through all this borders without being detected, and that's a worrying factor. It's something that we know happens on a regular basis. And that's where we really need to obviously ensure that we tighten our screws on. So we're quite happy as a union. And of course, I think what remains now is that there should definitely be some level of accountability from both the Department of Correctional Services and the G4S.
Yeah. Justice Minister Ronald Lamola has confirmed that an official delegation from South Africa is going to depart for Tanzania tomorrow, where they will be received and assisted by the Office of the High Commissioner in that country. What do you believe needs to be determined by the delegation as they arrive?
Look, I think that the first thing, of course, will obviously be to verify the details around the person who is being arrested. Those are probably some duties that the government will perform at that level. But most worrying, I mean, just earlier during the week, you had conflicting statements from G4S claiming that the person who had died in the prison was indeed Thabo Bester, while the Department of Correctional Services gave us a different view. So I think our main thing for now, our main concern is that we need to really review the kinds of contracts that we enter into as a government. Look, the fact that we entered into a PPP, public-private partnership with G4S, which is a private company, and the fact that according to the Correctional Services Act 111 of 1998, which speaks to how the department is supposed to relate with the private companies, does definitely show that there was a lack of oversight and there was a lack of monitoring from the Department of Correctional Services. So I think moving forward, those will be our priorities. As to whether the discussions which would emanate from the delegation that will go to Tanzania tomorrow, the outcomes thereof, there cannot be any certainty. I mean, looking at previous experiences, for example, regarding the issue around Bushiri, and of course the recent one which involves the Guptas, you would see that there has been some form of lack of cooperation there. Mm-hmm. So we hope this does not necessarily yield in any delays, and justice is actually will prevail within the shortest space of time.
Yeah. In the midst of all the questions, there's still an incredible amount of verification that needs to take place. We know that the suspects were, for instance, captured with multiple passports in their possession, and none of the passports were even stamped. I mean, what level of investigation will it now take to establish how this happened?
Hence, we're saying that we need to really revisit our border control systems. But not only that, really, I think a majority of questions that need to be answered would be from G4S and the Department of Correctional Services. Because you would know that, for example, when you enter into such a partnership, you've got controllers and you've got regular reports that you would have to obviously be presented to the department. Hence, we are saying that government should really reconsider immediately the outsourcing of security matters within the country. Anyway, these companies are not even local companies, but they are foreign-owned. So it's quite a security risk that we would have such incidents. And again, we do know for the record that there have been many human rights abuses cases reported against G4S over the years, and yet nothing has been done. So this Thabo Bester issue just sparked the levels of fraud that has been contained within those centers. The contracts, by the way, expire only in 2026.
Yes.
And we think as a union that we cannot wait 3 years longer to actually have this contract expiring while these private companies continue to run in this prisons. We spend a lot of money as a country on these 2 private prisons, over R1 billion on a yearly basis. And I think for every prisoner, they spend around over R400 on a daily basis. So some of these resources could really be channeled towards ensuring that we actually improve the standards of our correctional centers and ensure that they actually focus on their community, which is to rehabilitate.
Yeah. Very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for weighing in on this discussion. Richard Mamabolo there, who speaks for POPCRU, Police and Prison Civil Rights Union.